Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the channel. Excoundrel AFK Journey here. Now, I have seen a lot of discourse around the new Dream Realm boss changes. I've myself had a video prepared for this, but I've decided to change it up after watching a couple of other videos. Because simply, I just think there's a bit of hysteria around this that doesn't need to be there. Essentially, the changes are here that you can see on your screen, and the most important ones, I'm going to just say is number two. In Season Dream Realm, bosses now have a slower increase in physical defense and magic defense as they lose HP. However, their damage reduction will increase faster as their HP decreases. So essentially, they are going to ramp up their physical and magic defense a lot slower, which is going to mean that anybody that deals traditional physical or traditional magic damage is going to be better in the Dream Realm. So specifically like Odie. Odie has become so much better in the Dream Realm now. He was already S+ tier. He's now like S++ tier. Odie is a go-to, right? And as their HP decreases, their damage reduction will increase faster, which means that all damage dealt to the boss is going to reduce, including true damage. However, as their HP goes down, they still have an increase in physical and magic defense. So you are still going to have more benefit from having true damage. Now, I've seen some absolutely wild community takes saying, hey, why have I invested in Marilee now? She's useless. Why have I invested in Corin? They've done us dirty. That is just not the case. Marilee and Corin are still incredible. Specifically Marilee, she's still going to be S+ tier for bosses. I think what is worth noting, though, is that ultimately, you shouldn't feel hard done by. If you're watching guides for Dream Realm before, everyone said Odie followed by Marilee. Odie is great for PvE and Dream Realm bosses. He should be your first A-tier hero that you look to ascend to Supreme Plus. Then Marilee, she is still fantastic. The only person that has dropped off slightly because of these changes is Corin. But realistically, you can replace Corin with plenty of other things. The Dream Realm bosses hit a lot harder. I'm using Coco way more often now because the damage reduction is really important. Corin was always kind of niche, realistically. He's obviously very good in some Dream Realm bosses, and specifically on Necrodrakon because he moves around a lot. It's still worth it to have him. But ultimately, most free-to-play players are probably not looking at Mythic Plus Odie, Mythic Plus Marilee, and Mythic Plus Corin. Most of you are probably at Mythic Plus Odie, Mythic Plus Marilee, if that. And then you were kind of looking at where to go to. You might be at the perfect point now where we can say, maybe don't worry about Corin, maybe go for Coco copies, or maybe go for Kruger copies, because, and I personally, sorry, I just knocked something off my desk. I personally don't even think that Kruger is that important anymore, because simply you have the Quickblade, the Quickblade enchant, which basically does what Kruger does anyway, and you can free up that slot for something else, like a Coco, for instance. So, it's just worth noting that you shouldn't feel hard done by, because Marilee is still fantastic. She's still absolutely out there. People have said that Alsa can potentially rival some of the damage, which is I think Alsa can. And what I'm going to show you actually is some Croaker attempts, but then I'm also going to show you guys what that would look like with Alsa as well, because I think a lot of people are talking about Alsa's boss damage. If you've got her invested, she can be pretty strong. Actually, do you know what? We'll start. I'm rank 8, and you're going to see some of these attempts in just a moment. But let's actually go down the path of running 3 Wilders with Alsa here. We could actually run Alsa and potentially go for the magic resist reduction one. That could be really interesting to try. Let's see potentially how this works out. I haven't tried this version of the comp yet, so let's give that a go. The other way is to potentially go for 4 Wilders. So we could go for this, and then we could also go for 4 Wilders. There's going to be a lot of King Croaker attempts in this video, guys, by the way. You're going to see a lot of them. Alsa has got a lot of good single target damage, but this is a good opportunity to kind of see Alsa versus Marilee. You also have to take into account that we are obviously reducing the magic resist of the boss, which is not exactly benefiting Marilee, but she will obviously be dealing true damage. So at the end of the day, true damage is still going to go through all of those resistances. Okay, so it's going to be interesting. I'm kind of interested to see how we do here. The boss target, single target damage that comes from Alsa is just from that ability that she constantly rolls in. That roll damage ramps up the more that she does it, up to a certain number of stacks. So she can be really effective because she just essentially could ult over and over and over again. But I kind of want to compare those damages at the end. She has got good single target boss damage, but would I say that she's got single target boss damage that's good enough to kind of outshine things like the Marilee? Now, I have just seen one of the major problems here. If we're not running Coco, we actually end up dying before we get most of our damage down. But we'll still be interesting to see where the damage lies. Obviously, we've just seen Marilee survive for a little bit longer. This is nowhere near my best total. Yeah, I mean, Alsa's like, even if Alsa survived, longer. Should be getting nowhere near Marilee. But just for sake of trying, let's go for a 4 wilder composition just with the Thoran to absorb the damage here, and then we'll keep the magic resist reduction one. This one's also pretty good, but frankly, I just think this is better. Let's go down this path. We're running on a 4 wild, as a wilder, 4 mauler composition. I don't know why I always call them wilders. 4 mauler composition, and we're going to run with Coco instead. This should keep Smokey alive long enough that we don't end up losing him. And if this can beat, this 4 mauler composition can get anywhere close to the damage that I dealt with Marilee, which you'll see in just a moment. And if you want to stick around and watch the video, you will see the comp that I used to get top 8 with. You know, that's, you know, fairly interesting. But at the moment, as it stands, I say that, it is going pretty well. I hadn't tried with a 4 mauler comp. We're obviously reducing magic resist damage here. Magic resist is still ramping up though, and you can see the damage sort of tails off a little bit as you get towards the latter half of the fight. This is because the damage reduction goes up. This is because the physical defense and magic defense still goes up at this portion of the fight. But we have got 30 seconds left. Now, if I can breach 50 million, then we could be looking at a very different fight here. This is very interesting. I don't think we're going to beat our total. I don't think we're going to beat the total that we had with Marilee. But it is close. But this is the point of the video, right? It's showing you that there are other options that you can use if you don't have things like Marilee and Corin at the sort of the very high level. We are getting close, you know? We are getting close. It is very close. It's actually beaten it. It has actually beaten it by about 1 million. Now, I'm interested to see if that is coming primarily from Odie. 146 million from the Alsa there, which is very interesting, but it is not significantly higher than what I was getting with Marilee. Just for the sake of giving this a go, let's go into another one, and let's run Marilee here. And let's run with the magic resist reducing one because that's great for Odie. I ran it with the Quickblade originally, but let's run with the magic resist reducing one for Odie, and let's see where we net out using Marilee this time round instead. Very interesting, though. It just shows you that that's the whole point of these changes is not to make Marilee bad, it's to make other characters comparable. So that's the really interesting thing about this. And actually, to be honest with you, I am surprised in this video at the damage that Alsa actually ended up doing there. It has beaten my record for today, which was using... And actually, Alsa wasn't even at level 130, whereas my Marilee is at level 130. So that's also worth noting. I could probably go back and run another attempt at this with Alsa being at 130 versus the Marilee and the Odie being at 130. But let's see how this nets out. And... I kind of want to see the damage that Marilee does towards the end of this as well. Now, I'm running Coco simply because it is the only way to keep my team alive long enough. And the Smokey being alive is most important. So we're at 30 seconds to go. And I think we are slightly behind, maybe slightly behind where we were with the damage. I'm not sure. Can't quite remember where we were with the damage. But we've got 18 seconds, 17 seconds to go. I don't think we're going to beat the... I don't think we're beating the allegations here. I don't think we're beating the allegations, guys. We are not beating the allegations on that one. Let's have a look. More damage, though. She dealt more damage, which is super interesting. I'm trying to figure out where the extra damage must have come from then, because she dealt more damage than Alsa. So maybe it's a case of that it's just better to have the Quickblade enchant in this case. But she actually, I think it's probably because we weren't building up enough of the Crescent. I'm going to try now with the Quickblade enchant and see if we get closer in this regard. Did more damage than Alsa, but overall the team ended up dealing slightly less damage. You've got to also take into account the fact that we had a 4 Mauler bonus rather than a 3 Mauler bonus as well. But this is kind of, again, the point of the changes. Kind of the point of the changes. Okay. Going slightly better with the Quickblade enchant this time round. We're pushing damage a little higher. Obviously, this is kind of more leaning towards the Marilee damage than it is leaning towards the Odie damage. But again, I think it's more about showing you the variety of options that we have. It's pushing towards similar territory this time round with the Quickblade enchant over the Crescent spell enchant. Don't think we might not end up beating the actual damage output though. Oh no, we did. Okay, so it's so close. Both of these are so close. It's absolutely crazy. Take a look at the damage. Marilee did 180 million, and actually Odie did a very comparable amount of damage. Now, and I've actually moved up to rank 7 because of Marilee, right? Just to be completely fair, let's swap Marilee out for Alsa, wherever Alsa is. Obviously, you also have to take into account my Alsa's X weapon is lower than my Marilee's X weapon, so that is also worth noting here. And it will very much depend on the X weapons that you have. Like if I have my Alsa X weapon at level 10, like maybe this would also be very different. But let's go into here with her at level 130. Let's change out to the Crescent spell because that's better, because we're dealing a lot more magic damage. Let's put Alsa in and see where we end up. It's very interesting because, you know, like Marilee is still great, but it just means there are some comparable options now, and that is the most important thing. If I'm completely honest with you, the changes are all about as I've said several times in this video already, the changes are kind of all about making things a bit more comparable. It's not to kill off Marilee. Marilee is still one of the standout DPS carries if you have her at Supreme Plus, or, you know, you have her at Mythic Plus or whatever. She's still one of the standout carries in that regard. And you really shouldn't feel bad about having built her, because as I've just shown in this video, it's very, very easy to cap your damage still with Marilee. She's still an absolutely excellent carry in that regard. But as I'm showing you with Alsa here, and I'm sure you've seen lots of people talk about this and show you this, Alsa is actually surprisingly good as a single target DPS carry, actually surprisingly good in the Dream Realm. But is she better than Marilee? Probably not. The reason she's working better here is because we're getting a 4 Mauler bonus, which is helping the team overall. And frankly, it's just comparable. It's from a min-max perspective, very similar. Although I am saying that we are pushing towards that sort of breakpoint of 480 million again. But, you know, that's the point of it. It's comparable. It's not better. It is comparable. And that is the most important thing about these changes, is that we just have other options available to us. I'm still doing really well with Marilee. It's super close. Like, look at this. It's practically identical, the damage that I've just done. It hasn't beaten my Marilee run, but it's practically identical. Like, Odie did a bit more damage because we're running Crescent spell, but because we had the Alsa and the Odie, we were stacking Crescent spell and dealing way more damage in that regard, right? It is just comparable, and that's the most important thing. So do not go into this thinking, why have I wasted all my sort of copies on Marilee and Odie? Odie is still fantastic, Marilee is still fantastic, but there are just other options. Hell, I'm even going to show you a Florabelle run now that had a relatively good run as well. And then actually what I will also show you after this is potentially using Valor, because Valor was what allowed me to push the Dream Realm rankings on the previous... Oh, fudge! Oh, no, 1 second, guys. I've just put in friggin' Florabelle with Coco. I'll come back after this one. Actually, this could be quite a good one. I'm just coming back to it now. Coco with Florabelle. Coco works really well with summoners, obviously, so we have actually beaten our record running Coco with Florabelle in this sense. But now I'm interested to see if that will change with Marilee, for instance. So we're actually really high in damage with Florabelle here. So we're at 481 million using Florabelle in conjunction with Coco, which taken me to rank 8. But to be honest with you, Florabelle did about 40 million more damage than she would have done previously, but my Odie absolutely popped off. So frankly, the changes, they definitely mean that you can bring new and exciting options into these Dream Realm boss fights. And I think that is essentially, that's what these intended changes were about. It was to say, if you don't have Marilee and Corin at like S+ tier, or sorry, like at Mythic Plus or whatever, then you can still do really well with other heroes. And I think that's what the intended changes were supposed to do. They were supposed to say, okay, you don't need just these heroes. There are other heroes that you can use that would also be good. But clearly, if you want to get on ranking and do as best as possible, it is still very much the case that Marilee is still great. Corin is okay. And like, obviously Corin is not like a #1 pick for every single Dream Realm boss fight. Marilee kind of is. And what I would say after seeing the damage numbers here, and especially running with the Coco version of this comp as well, I'd say that probably Corin maybe isn't as super strong as he was previously, but Marilee still is. Marilee is still fantastic. The true damage still matters. You're still going to get benefit from having true damage in your Dream Realm bosses because, like, frankly, their magic defense and physical defense still goes up. It still does go up, and that still becomes an important thing that you have to contend with as the HP of the boss gets further and further. So, you know, don't feel like you've wasted money on Marilee and Corin, because you haven't. They're still useful, and I still use them, and I still push top 10 on my server by using Marilee. So just, you know, chill out, guys. It's all good. I'm going to show you some Skyclops bosses as well now, showing you kind of just what that difference means with some of my other attempts, and still the fact that I can still push Dream Realm boss rankings with Marilee, again, because she's still very good. Now, it is worth noting, guys, that the lower the boss's HP goes, the higher that physical and magic defense is going to become. So there is going to be a crossover point where you are going to progress better by having those true damage carries back in. So that's not to say that all that time, copies, pulls, efforts, wish lists that you've invested in Corin and Marilee are suddenly going to become useless. They're not. Quite the opposite, actually. Those are still going to be useful, but there is going to be a little bit of a change about how you approach it, depending on how you are average, so your average progression on the HP bar is for your respective Dream World boss. And what I mean by that is, if you are pushing like the first 25% on average, right? That is where your traditional non-true damage is probably going to come out better. However, the further you get past 50%, 60%, whatever, that is where your true damage is actually going to become really interesting. And something that I'm not actually getting, I don't think I'm getting these bosses past 50% that easily. But, you know, something like a Valor, for instance, it's a similar argument for when you have Valor involved. Valor then becomes a little more useful once you get past the 60% mark. Actually, I'm very interested what I'm going to try before the end of the video, as you'll probably see me do a few attempts in this video, and I'll sort of talk about what I'm doing. I will actually, at the end of the video, try a Valor style comp to see how that actually ends up working out. But you should be using Marilee and Corin, especially if they're your highest ascended Dream Realm carries. They are still going to do really well. But in my case, you know, obviously, Odie is a beast, and he's going to work really well. Now, Odie was already good in Dream Realm. It's just that he's got better in Dream Realm. But it's also opened up a couple of other options for you. Like, for instance, you saw me just there, right there, use Alsa. She did 101 million magic damage, which is a pretty big deal. And so there's probably a room for new single target, maybe just more focused on like physical damage or magic damage to come into the Dream Realm and be more effective. But the whole point of this video is to say that, you know, depending on where you are in your Dream Realm boss progression, you are going to do better in the earlier HP phases without true damage. If you've got a highly ascended, just normal magic damage dealer like Odie or physical damage dealer, etc., then you're going to do really well with just traditional physical damage without the need for true damage. As that Dream Realm boss gets closer and closer to its final HP, then that is where you're going to find that the true damage carries start to become a bit more impactful. So it's just worth noting that it's a bit of a split, and you may find that experimenting with some non-true damage carries, especially if you are at the very start of pushing the HP, will end up netting you a slightly higher progression than you were able to get before, which is interesting to note. Right, let's jump into some different comp testing, because that's what I'm going to do in this video. This time we could slot in a Corin over a Rainier. So let's say we're just going to run Odie in his normal position, and we're going to slot another kind of classic king of Dream Realms in with Corin. In this case, it may be better to run the Quickblade spell, because we've got 2 physical damage dealers, but we shall see. You have to kind of be a bit more selective this time round, just because obviously, things change up a little bit with depending on the damage dealers that you're running with. But it's just, we're showing we're getting relatively comparable damage with team comps. And actually, when we looked at the stats afterwards, Marilee didn't deal that much more damage than Alsa. And Alsa's not exactly a single target specialist. So to me, if there's another like really strong single target, another really strong single target hero in the game, we could potentially run that. If I ever get my Cassidy to Supreme Plus, probably slotting in Cassidy as an option here is good. Now we're at 40 seconds, and we are now at about 30 million damage. Coco is pretty much MVP on this boss, by the way. If you can run Coco on Skyclops, it's insane. Now we're pushing. So we're not running the magic damage reduction. We are doing really well in terms of damage here, though. Are we going to beat our previous record is the question. We have beaten our previous record here using the Quickblade spell instead. So we're at 386 million in this case. I kind of want to have a look at the overall damage. Again, we're down to rank 9, which I've never been to. So obviously, in this case, Odie dealt significantly less damage. But what's interesting is that Marilee didn't actually deal that much more damage. So that now tells me that maybe there's a world where we actually go back to running the magic reduction spell and potentially have Odie give it a go. But we're still kind of in similar territory overall here. Right, the final comp we're going to do is we're going to use Valor. And we are going to see if using Valor with the physical damage reduction potentially gets it to like below 50% quicker, and then potentially then the Valor true damage comes in later on. Very interesting. I think Valor tends to be a bit weaker on the overall DPS in the early game, though. Corin tends to be better, especially getting through these ads. One of the things about Skyclops is that if you lose a lot of time on the ads, it can really impact your overall performance. We just need to get it below 50% for Valor to become really strong. Okay, there goes the physical defense reduction. We are at 200 million with about 20 seconds to go before it becomes really good. We've got to once we get below the 50% mark, that's when Valor's going to start to really come alive in this Dream Realm boss progression push. There we go. So we're now below the 50% point, and now Valor's going to jump in and start dealing true damage, which is really nice. Took a little while to get there, but which is why we used the Quickblade spell, just to try and get us over that line a little bit more quickly. Now Valor's starting to really chunk in terms of true damage here. Okay, I'm liking what I'm seeing. Oh, that's a big chunk of true damage that just went down. Need to get through these ads, get through these ads. Nice! One more ult from Valor will be really big here. True damage comes through again. Maybe we can get one more ult from Valor. One more ult. Oh, yeah. We've just broken 400 million. We just broke 400 million with Valor. That was what I wanted to test out. Let's have a look at the damage dealt. We're now ranked number 8. And Valor dealt nearly 100 million, 110 million. Odie's still outperforming all of my true damage dealers, by the way. And that's because of those changes with the magic defense scaling, but that is huge. I'm now number 8 on the server, and I'm kind of interested to see now where I am on the district realm rankings. 49. Gosh, I really hope I don't lose my spot. If I had Rainier Mythic Plus, it's 401 million. Just 401 million for 48, but I am in the top 50 now. And that is with a buffer of about 5 million damage. But, some bad RNG and you can kind of get set back there. And that does mean I'm going to get myself the special purple hair, which I've never had access to before. So basically, guys, don't worry about the Dream Realm boss changes. They are a big deal, especially in sort of the first half of the boss's life, especially if you're only pushing in the very early stages of the boss. Like, your Marilees are going to be less useful, of course. But all it's doing is that, Marilee and Corin and these true damage carries are still going to be super useful. It's just that you are going to get other heroes that will be comparable. Like Florabelle on this video, when you saw me do King Croaker, she was comparable in terms of damage output to Marilee, but Marilee was ultimately ever so slightly better. So if you're really looking at min-maxing, Marilee is still good to go to in terms of single target boss DPS. It's not changed. It's just that we've opened up the field for more heroes to come and be competitive if you have them leveled. And that is exactly what this was supposed to do. Like, you know, Cessia might even be a genuine option on some of these bosses now because of the physical damage penetration spell, and also because physical damage is a lot more effective in the earlier boss HP levels. So just bear that in mind. That's all this video is about, is that, you know, don't worry too much about the new Dream Realm boss changes, because it's ultimately only impacting very small differences in terms of where damage is dealt. Your Dream Realm teams from before are still perfectly viable.